it's relatable to everybody listening. We all grew up with Dragon Ball and we're inspired by it in different ways. There's so much more to it than just screaming and punching. Even though it is the best at that, there's a lot of heart to it. And I think that's why when we talk about Toriyama's influence, we also have to look at the manga authors who have inherited his spirit, which are, Masashi Kishimoto with Naruto.
Katsura Ota, the creator of One Piece.
Yes, and Bleach, Kubo. There's just so many who will be happy to tell you that Toriyama was like a god to them and that they worshipped him and everything he made.
Most shown anime. Jujutsu Kaisen author as well. I think even My Hero Academic I think I've seen or read somewhere. It's a lot. He inspired a lot of people.
Yeah, there was a lot of outpouring from different manga authors after his death to describe how much Toriyama meant to them in their lives. And even if they had never met each other, they would, because they grew up with Dragon Ball and Dr. Slump too. They grew up in that generation and they would read it every week and they would talk about it. They would bring it to school and everybody would just nerd out in excitement over the latest chapter. It was really their childhood. Like, I did an interview recently, two of them, one in the UK and one in Mexico, for different newspapers, talking about his influence and the way that he changed people's lives. Like in South America, there was football and then there was Dragon Ball. And those two things changed the lives of tens of millions of people and formed a part of their personality and the way that they look at the world. Like I talk about in my It's Over 9,000 book, the series is all about different worldviews colliding, and it teaches us how to look at life and look at other people and ourselves. And the incredible thing is Toriyama never intended on doing any of that. It was all just him trying to tell a story that was entertaining and kept, reaching the next level. But because of the way that it was founded upon Journey to the West and all of this Buddhist and Taoist culture, there's a fundamental framework of spiritual cultivation, which Toriyama transforms from, sitting in meditation to doing martial arts. And that makes it a lot more exciting and easier to accept and fun to talk about and watch. And then as you watch that, you pick up on these spiritual elements. And that's really, I think, the thing that Toriyama passed on and will live forever in his work is this spiritual aspect to it. People find from the first episode onward, there, even in the sillier parts, there's so much heart to it.
Yeah, I haven't read many of her manga, but I know that Kazuki Takahashi, rest in peace, also said he was a fan of Dragon Ball and Toriyama.
I personally think that Toriyama's understanding of how Buddhism and Taoism affected martial arts is very underrated. I don't think people give him near enough credit for his understanding of the history of Kung Fu and how Buddhism and Taoism affected it and how they're essentially inseparable. I don't think he gets near enough credit for that. His intentions was always to make Dragon Ball like a Kung Fu film. Kung Fu films do the same thing. They play on how Buddhism and Taoism affected martial arts, and I don't think he gets enough credit for perfecting that formula and implementing it correctly in manga. I think people tend to look at Dragon Ball like a comic book when really it's just like an allegorical representation of the same things that Kung Fu movies used to be a representation of. As somebody who's a huge fan of like Kung Fu movies, Bruce Lee movies, Jackie Chan movies and stuff like that, I think that's one of the main appeals to me personally, is that I like when someone points out something nuanced and special about a subject that I appreciate personally. So that's something I really appreciate about Toriyama's storytelling.
I think that the Shinsuke Kikuchi score really captures the feel of an old Kung Fu movie very well.
Yeah, and we see a lot of this in characters like Tao Pai Pai was inspired by Jackie Chan's Snake and Eagle's Shadow. And of course, Drunken Master and so many other Jackie Chan films that Toriyama adored. The incredible thing is that he did it in a way that he doesn't just flat out say, like, I'm taking this from this movie. And so unless you've seen the movie and you look at Dragon Ball, you look at the movie and you see the similarities, you're not going to entirely catch that source of inspiration. You just be like, oh, this feels like Kung Fu. This feels like Chinese culture. And that's a talent that he has, to be able to pick up little pieces from here and over there and then combine them together in a way that seems fresh. And I think that's something that other people will emulate and study in the years ahead.
Yes, he really has that talent. By the way, when we were talking about Tao Pai Pai, I heard on a French podcast that they were saying that he might have been based off on a real actor from a kung fu movie.
He was. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I mentioned that in one of my Dragon Ball Culture Daily posts a few years ago. But it was from the movie Snake and Eagle's Shadow. And I actually reached out to him on social media and asked him for an interview about the inspiration and like how Toriyama took his likeness and stuff like that. And his agent declined the interview, which is a real shame. But yeah, his name is Hwang Jong Lee. If you look him up in that movie, you'll see the similarity between him and Tao Pai Pai. And he's a Japanese-born Korean martial artist. Very talented, incredible kicks. And I hope to interview him. He's 79. There's a lot of people like that I'd like to speak with who you go, oh, that looks like the guy from the movie. And it's because it is. Toriyama just didn't tell anybody.